Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Beyer, and I feel like I'm dressed like Fozzie Bear, and you're dressed like Benoit Richaud. I'm
Oh,
like,
how dare you? I was wearing turtlenecks long before Benoit Rousseau. That is so offensive, Jonathan.
okay, okay,
You know,
I
you're
take it
back
back.
for 30 seconds and you're insulting. This is terrible.
I meant chic and artistic.
We're
Yeah,
going to be
okay.
discussing everything at the Finlandia Trophy. I don't have like a tattoo here and that bracelet he wears. Oh my God. I mean, I've seen him in real life. So have you. Okay. Come on.
Hi, so have I. Yeah,
You know,
and Fozzie
I
Bear.
had to
Yeah.
laugh because the last time we were filming together, and I sent you a picture of it, but this was literally coming in the mail, and you wore something just like it, and I felt like single white female, but it's a different designer. But I was like, oh my God, everything that Miranda Priestley taught us about fashion is like real. This is probably from some runway that's now like
That like trickles down. I totally get it. I totally get it. You should have told me. We could have worn them together,
I was like,
twinsies.
oh my God, it's single white female. Oh dear. Yes. Or like the Gracie Gold Brad Griffey's dress with the heart
A
neckline that
sweetheart.
you'll
Yeah,
see today. Yes.
yeah, amazing. Good job.
Oh,
Good job.
wow. What's
Yeah.
happening? Yes, amazing. So it's one of my favorite weeks of the year that's now spread over 2 weeks, which is great because the Grand Prix was mid this week, but it's sectionals week.
Well, I've been hearing about someone that I meant to watch, and I was impressed. Have they always shown them on Peacock?
Um, no, it's more recent in the recent years that they show junior and senior. And then on US Figure Skating's YouTube channel, you can watch the younger levels. And I
Oh,
been like juvenile or intermediate to watch it at okay, if you watch it, the better events are always in the practice rink. I think it's the West Rink at Skating Club of Boston. It's the one where you walk past the photo of Jenny when you walk in.
okay.
And the Tenley Center has like Paul and Nancy on the wall. But this one you walk past Jenny, I think 2002, 2001, 2002 to walk in, right? And it's up on the wall. And like, I don't know, like this rink is good vibes. It's the one that has the mirror. And of course, like sectionals is great because the kids don't know how to behave in the kiss and cry yet. Like, they haven't learned how to fake it. Like they're not acting. Like we see
Yeah,
like
because I would imagine most of their stuff is not so on display as they respond in real time. Yeah.
one of the cutest things was John and Sylvia, their son Jack, performed in Juvenile Men, didn't have a costume yet. And it's so funny, like he was so nervous that his crossovers were not really existent, but he could do a hitch kick and he could jump and he sort of skated like a mini version of John Zimmerman. And then there's everyone from the Ice House, which all the people that I told you about over the years are now competing. And I exaggerated none of these people.
Okay.
One of the girls from the Ice House that I used to skate with stormed out of the kiss and cry, didn't like her score, was one of the real moments.
A real Maria Butrskaya moment at sectionals. That's nice. Yeah. Okay.
Like the drama is so good and the messiness, and then you see someone with potential. Overall, the standard of skating has been lower than in sectionals past. And after COVID and right before they changed the format, they got rid of regionals and now they let 18 to 24 at sectionals. And it feels like a regional sometimes because it used to be like 12 at sectionals.
Okay.
So I know some of it is about cost and stuff like that, but it's a little bit of a different vibe. But there were still like the good moments. If you made it through the senior ladies at the end, Ting Shui performed, who you always loved,
I did.
and she was so lovely.
Oh,
And she did an homage to Chen Lu's Black Magic Woman that she did the first year she turned pro that like
yeah.
scandalized
Yeah.
everyone. And then Ting did like a very lovely free skate. So like two different styles, but she was like the highlight of the event. She was great.
How were the jumps?
The jumps were really good. She did a triple lutz.
Okay.
She did a triple flip. She did triple toe, triple sow. I don't think we saw triple loop. And she did another triple sow at the end that she fell on, which you could tell she was a little slow going into it, and she had like such a clean program. She fell, but she won the event. She'll be clean at nationals. Like I think
I always enjoyed her, and then obviously things took a turn there for a second, but there was always such lovely quality to her overall skating to me.
And I think it's interesting, like, so we had always heard, rumors that, Ting had, I think, an intense skating parent, right? That was always the word on the street. and she went to some intense coaches along the way, but she really like skates for herself now. And she had an internship that was pretty competitive over the summer, and then she was working with Ilya's parents, and she pretty much coaches herself up at school. So
Oh, okay.
really impressive. So she's the president of one of the women's organizations I see on Instagram, like at Middlebury. So in my mind, she's president of the women, and
Okay.
she's skating, and she was
Okay.
lovely. She was great.
Oh,
So
good. I'm glad she's going to be at nationals. I've missed her. Yeah.
yes, and like I like that she. So I met her at Ilya Molinen's show, and like I was talking to Deanna and Paulina, and Ilya sat down, and Max was there, and she was like sitting in the corner laughing but not saying much. And then I got a text from her like, "Oh, did you like my homage to Michelle Kwan?" And then she's doing like a Chen Lu short. So I'm like, she knows her A-list Asians of the
Yes, she
importance of
does.
skating.
Yes.
So like now we love her, right? Like
Correct.
she gets it. Yeah. So if you
Right.
can watch her on US Figure Skating's YouTube, she's worth watching. She has better skating skills than anyone.
Most. Yeah.
So yeah, it was
Lovely.
way better skating skills than Alyssa Liu. Like way better. Like whoa.
Did then too. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So
Nice.
also we have bad news that Luca Brassard has fractured his pelvis, so he's out for the rest of the year. He was injured last year too. So
But again, I would just sit and watch him just move his hands sitting down.
yes.
I think it's so beautiful.
Terry would put a cast on that pelvis and he could go out there and
Just go. Yeah.
just go.
Yeah.
It was funny because I was listening to an interview that they did with him after Skate America, and he was talking about his issues with his pelvis. And I was like, oh, I have those issues. But like mine's not fractured. So
Yeah. Or taking the impact. I mean, especially if your hips are not 100%. Ouch.
yeah.
Yikes.
You do skate a lot with your pelvis. So that's like one of those injuries to brutal. So
Isn't that what happened to Tara?
yeah, and Jenny, okay, so Jenny fractured, so he didn't say what kind of a fracture it was, but Jenny fractured off a piece of her pelvis and it went into her hip flexor. So when she would talk about her hip flexor, it was because she had a piece of bone that went into it and they couldn't really do surgery on it. So she just had to deal with the pain forever. But it came from because I think her mom didn't let her take enough time off after the injury. So you know what, her story, not mine. Yeah, that's
Yeah. Tough. Oof.
yeah. So, but at the you sort of get it because I think she fractured her pelvis right before the season after she had won Junior World, so they didn't want to
lose momentum
in that time, but it wound up doing her in ultimately because it just was it became a never-ending cycle of that problem.
Yeah.
So
how unfortunate. Yeah.
But it's definitely like, so I don't know what kind of a fracture he has. I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. But he said he has a fractured pelvis. So maybe I don't know what to root for in that scenario. I don't know what's the better.
He takes the time necessary for him to come back at full capacity, whatever that means. Yeah.
And I know he was applying to college. And he was applying in cities where there are big skating rinks and wants to be an engineer. So I listened to that interview with him. He learned a lot. He seems like a perfectionist. So
well, yeah, it seems to draw that personality type, doesn't it?
Yeah. So also, Audrey Shidden-Balazs just withdrew from Warsaw this coming week, but that's why they weren't at sectionals, because they were supposed to have a bye. So I don't know what that means for the rest of their year, or if they could get another international before. So yeah, but kind of
grab in there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, what did you? I'm so curious because we talked about Skate America.
Correct.
And what else? What
and then
else?
We covered France together.
So we have not talked about Piper and Paul and the back. Okay, what do you make of the fashion?
I enjoy the idea of starting with the dance event, because what was really interesting about this particular field is they were a lot of my favorites of the B group. And I don't mean that offensively, but I just mean this sort of like the second group of skaters at a Worlds or something like that. It was interesting to see so many teams that I enjoy really all back to back with the
Yeah.
Czech and the Finnish and some of the Americans and everything. It was really interesting. Why don't we start with Piper and Paul?
All
So
right.
now, if I am correct, in Skate Canada, they did more of the lifeguard costuming. Is that correct?
Correct.
These costumes were cute.
Do you worry in advance? Okay, on one hand, I think it's really cool that they're having different costumes for each event to get fan engagement. The other side of that is when you have to resort to a gimmick, you are resorting to a gimmick, right? And they don't need to because they are contenders for the best team in the world.
Yeah.
Liked the other costumes better, but that's just
You did? I don't know. These worked. They were cute and like sort of captured the vibe. What was interesting, and I never know how much of what like the commentators are given in background information is just kind of silly fluff or legitimate. Because it was saying something like she wants to pursue something with costumes. So I was like, is this her setting herself up?
yes.
So I mean, in that way, as an entrepreneur, I see the benefit of her basically now showing us a runway of options.
You know what's ironic and also unfortunate?
That they don't change the free dance costumes?
Well, that too.
Yeah,
But
okay.
do you know who else is going to open a design business when they are finished skating and has already sort of announced
Is
it?
that Madison Chalk?
Yes, that is.
And again, immediately I would be drawn to Madison Chalks for being luxe and haute couture
Yes.
and these sorts of things. But I would imagine there's a place for this kind of fun.
There's a place for everyone and for both. There is. But
Yeah.
you just think like, oh my goodness, you're competing on the ice and now you're competing in your next career. How long are you going to be competing with Madison Chalk for? I mean, this probably goes back 20 years, if not longer. So yeah, it's just one of those things where you're like, oh dear.
But it was interesting. They kept talking about the rhythm dance being sort of this like nod to Barbie and Ken. I personally didn't get that. I got like summer fun. It seemed more
Yeah.
like Gidget than anything else. But it was fun. Again, we've established 100 times this is a gimmicky rhythm dance here yet again.
Yeah.
So I thought they met the challenge well.
Yeah, you know, I think I agree. I didn't really get the Barbie and Ken to where I wondered that if I was missing something, but I certainly get the vibe of like that almost Beach Boys era that they are going for, and I think it's fun and they have good skating skills.
It was just the right amount of kitsch.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these moments, because they're giving you these sort of like cheesy dance moves that are identifiable with the decade or whatever. And it was kitschy, but it was not too nausea inducing for me. And some of them inherently could be. But I thought this was fun that works.
I actually like their program as a vehicle better than Chalk and Bates because it's more cohesive. Chalk and Bates, it just changes music too many times for me to where I start to get annoyed rather than appreciate what they're doing. To me, when we start to get into the 70s with Chalk and Bates, I'm like, can you please stop changing music? I want to enjoy what they're doing. I like the idea of it. It's just a lot.
And we're not just talking about lots of edits, because this one had edits in it. But at one point, and this is something teams from Montreal have done before, it's literally 5-minute segments, like like it's just a montage of some sort. Yeah.
I mean, it's reminiscent of what Hubble and Donahue did 2017. Right. I mean, theirs had Baby Got Back in it. This is a different decade, but I question that. I have to say, on the inverse, I think I'm preferring the Chalk and Bates free dance to Piper and Paul's. To me, there are just some strange elements in this free dance that emphasize Piper's lack of posture and extension. They do this curve at the very end of the program where they're leaning into the curve and both of their legs are up and her chest is forward, and like you just see the lack of posture and extension. Like some of it draws me in. I really appreciate their run of edge. I really notice it. Especially compared to other teams here.
And their 1 foot sequence was really, really great. Yeah.
Yes.
So in that way, he does have skating skills.
Yes.
Yeah.
They do have very good skating skills. They have a very solid run of edge throughout the entire program. So much so that I really think that even with politics, I think that this worlds will be decided on the day that it's skated, at least at
Mm.
this point. Here, obviously, they had some stumbles. Paul did an extra turn in his twizzle, knocked Piper
Yeah.
over. She put her foot down at different point in the program. Overall, I think that they look strong, barring those errors. I thought the rhythm dance was good. I thought there were parts of their free dance were great, barring the errors. The free
And
dance
I
didn't
thought the ending was
transcend it.
really fabulous. The
Okay.
way the book ended, like the very opening moment with her like sharp turns and everything were very cool to me and drew me in immediately. And I thought that like flurried finish to the end was also very effective. Um, to me, we've talked about sort of this like more sign language charades approach to some of the
Mhm.
lyrics. So, yes, she's doing these sort of aerial cartwheels when they're singing about cartwheels. And I
And
was
seasick when they're talking about, yeah.
seasick is where it went a little too far because I was like, okay, I get it. I wouldn't do it, but I understand what they're doing. But then the seasick part, I was like, okay.
Someone emailed me asking if there's a reason why Piper has her mouth open when she's skating in the rhythm dance. And they were like, is there a technical reason for it? And I thought, no,
She
no.
always opens her mouth.
She does. It's one of those things that once you see, you can't unsee.
Exactly. We'll
Like
talk about
Shiley Jones's
that.
hands and other
Yeah.
you looking down, something like
And
that.
I get it. The difference also being like, you don't really notice that the same way when you're in the arena because
Mm.
you're sitting so far away. But of course, when they're doing these sort of over the top gestures and facial expressions and mouth openings, when it's a close up on TV, it looks very different.
So when I get nervous, I hold my right hand weird. And my coach Yuri's all, I mean, if he even sees to start tense hand, there's so I get it. Okay, everyone
Okay.
there. Everyone has their quirks, right? If we look close enough. And hers is that she opens her mouth when she skates.
Mine is I start blinking excessively.
Okay.
There will be some performances when I look back and I'm like, huh, I don't sound nervous, but I was really like in my head in this part. And then I look closer and I'm doing like this the whole time. And I was like, yeah, this physical stuff, it just shows up everywhere. I mean, I wonder though if part of her mouth opening is a strategic interpretation thing.
Okay. I
That
used to go all the way under with my hand, like almost like I wanted to grip on something, but it still gets stiff. It's
okay,
always the right one. When I first learned to skate, I think I was nervous about like moving, and for whatever reason, that made me feel like
anchored
secure
or
in the
something. Yeah.
weirdest way. Like
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
but it's a work in progress over time. Yeah. Sometimes you feel like that you get used to like how your body is tense, right? In certain ways. And I've been really
Yes.
working on like
It can be
improving.
really disorienting to remove part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So almost each time that I like remove some tension from my body, I feel like I have to relearn how to jump in certain ways because everything feels different. Yeah.
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 It's very confusing.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm intrigued by, so technically did they win in Skate Canada?
Yeah. Big score.
Huge for both disciplines. I'm thinking there's just been so many topsy-turvy
Yes.
moments for a lot of these teams, obviously for them here included in the free dance, and they really fell hard, but yet I am inclined to agree with you that I think they are still very much in the mix for the title,
Yeah.
along with Chalk and Bates. The the movement I seeing happening is that Lilah and Fear are passing the Italians.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're passing the Italians. The Italians had a rough outing at their competition, so they have another shot. And people point out, Fear and Gibson don't have the skating skills of the other teams, though you can see improvement. This is not my favorite free dance that they've ever had, though it's very fun and crowd appealing. And I'm sure that people will love it in Boston, especially at the end of the season. I could see the crowd going nuts. I could see them winning. I could see them being on the podium most notably because they are very, very consistent and mentally strong, right?
Mm.
They go out there every time and it looks like they book it every day. They perform consistently and they've
The
really,
stamina, the stamina is incredible.
they've taken advantage of other teams not being at their best. They beat Chalk and Bates when they weren't prepared for Skate America. And then this happened with Piper and Paul. And over time, judges start to view you as better. When you have 2 wins that you've beaten other teams, and they beat the Italians last year, people start to view them differently, where they can reward them higher scores if they want to and not worry that they're out of range, right? Because so much of this is reputation,
Right.
and they are hereby raising their reputation. They also compete 1,000,001 times so that they can go later and later in the starting order. They do more senior Bs than other teams
Yes,
do.
they weren't they after Piper and Paul in the rhythm dance.
Yeah.
I mean, makes sense.
That Lilah fear is driven. You could tell. She's knows what's up. She's playing the game.
But Poirier is driven, as I would assume they both are.
Yeah.
They step out onto the ice, and you suddenly know you're about to have some fun, and you can relax as an audience member because there's nothing to be nervous about.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything beyond their capabilities. They're not trying to go for something really esoteric in the material that might flop. Like, it's just fun. And especially the way he knows how to move. I'm like, you just look like you'd be fun to dance with at a wedding.
Yes.
And it's bringing that energy.
They invite people to have fun with them, which is their genius of their appeal, because no, they're not the most sophisticated artsy ice dancers who are doing something deep, right? They're strutting like Beyonce shamelessly,
Yeah.
having fun, and we're having fun with them.
Yes.
And it's engaging, and they do this every year. I think it will have a limited shelf life, right? I don't know how many years you can just do the crowd appealing program, because they do have Marjorie and Zach coming up, who have a lot of substance, right? So there is that competitiveness, and there will be that contrast, especially after these Olympics, should both teams continue, right? But they're peaking right now. It's kind of amazing. It reminds me, actually, in 2011, the Shibutanis medaled at Worlds. And what happened that entire season is, like Fear and Gibson this season, they were just consistent every single time out. So they always, I forget exactly what they did.
Safe bet. Yeah.
But they just did their job time and time and time and time again. Other people make mistakes at Worlds. It happens under huge amounts of pressure. These other teams are older. They have injuries. They have more wear and tear, and they have more psychological pressure on them potentially. And they just nailed it.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see it happening. I think the Italians have opened the door with the
material and the way it's going. Yeah. Because if you're going to bank on just your technical prowess, but there are errors, the judges seemed ready to let it go.
Yeah, and the scuttlebutt in ice dance over the summer was that some of the reason for the dance party was that after Papadakis and Cizeron really popularized that modern minimalist style, that they wanted to make it more engaging because everybody was copying them.
Okay.
So now I worry everyone's going to copy this, but of course,
that's the thing. Yeah,
and trying to course correct in a sense.
It becomes tricky, as I've mentioned before, if the rhythm dances are just a bit more inherently campy and kitschy based on the theme of that season, which I find this theme to be that, you are eagerly anticipating, or at least I am, programs with more gravitas for the freedom. Yes. And so when it basically almost becomes like another version of the rhythm dance, which theirs is a little, it's sort of like, yeah, I've seen enough of this approach right now. But again, they do it convincingly well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that Piper and Paul and Chalk and Bates have the right balance between the two programs that we like to see.
Yes.
Fear and Gibson are more of the same for both programs, although they do it very well. Both, I think, highlight Lewis this season. And she does, yeoman's work. It's
Talk to me about this switching of the partner steps in the Paso Doble.
So yes, they're allowed to go back and forth this season,
I've
and
just
it.
not heard of people really taking advantage of it. Are other teams doing it and I just didn't know that?
I have to study that more.
I
I have
know.
to,
Well, I was
yeah, like,
like, oh, this is interesting because, again, he seems to be maybe the more natural skater between the two. I
but I
was like,
do notice, they don't judge. They're not judging um, the key points of the pattern dance strictly like they did in the past. What I do notice is that it's become sort of loosey-goosey with this passo to where it's a pattern, but it doesn't really
hmm,
look as rigid as the passo does in the past.
yeah.
So, and it's not judged as strictly. So it's really getting away from the
Well, and
root.
even the idea we're putting a paso doble in the middle of all these decade dances,
You know,
the whole
it's
act
strange.
is a lot. It's a
It
lot.
kind of works for some, the swing roll steps are kind of fun, but it's
Okay.
a little strange.
Yeah.
I think we're really getting away from the pattern. It's almost as though they kept the pattern in there to let the people go wild with ice dance in the fun. I've always found it hard to mishmash together. I think I've seen very few rhythm dances over the last decade that I really thought have nailed it. I think Virtue and Moyer on their comeback, I think both of the Prince and the Hotel California were really well done. I think the Papadakis and Cizeron programs could be well done. They always were kind of fighting that rhythm on
Right.
the uh, pattern. So, but those, few and far between that I really think were like exceptional rhythm dances.
They're
And
not ones I go back and watch. All right,
no,
rhythm dance. Yeah. Yeah. That they
but I
used
would,
I used to go back and watch that Torval and Deed rumba from '94 all the
as
time.
you should,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I have to tell you, when I saw the Italians do, I had a fun night of going back in ice dance history to 1991, a week or two ago, one night, because just seeing the Italians do the robots and like the visceral reaction people have where they say no, right?
Yeah.
It reminded me of when the Duchesnays did that program at the Europeans in 91, where there was reflections, where they were supposed to be mirror images, and
Didn't
it
work.
just fell flat. And they
Yeah.
changed it back for the next program. So it was like too abstract, too conceptual,
They
too broad.
weren't ready for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't remember hating it. What was it like when you rewatched it?
It was it was a rough watch.
Okay. Okay.
I
That's fair.
appreciated the direction that they were going in. It just felt endless.
Okay.
I don't know why. Like to me, their missing program always feels like it's over in a flash, right?
Correct. Yeah.
It was 4 minutes. It felt like it was eight. Okay. I
Okay.
really
Well, and
felt
then you wonder about the reputation. Like again, in '88, everyone was so polarized by their free dance. I
mm,
loved that program, but I
mhm.
know that it sort of isolated them in some ways, and no one knew what to do with it. So, do you feel the need to keep pushing and being avant-garde, or do you kind of go another way?
Yeah, I think it might have been the music. I don't really, I can't say what it was about that
Okay.
Reflections program. Only saw it one time. They fell right at the end on the coolest move in the program. So, uh, no hate from Isabel coming my way. It was a valiant effort, but it was
Yeah.
not their best work.
Because was it Peyton Pie here that scrapped the new program and just went back to the old one? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, why are you trying to force something to work?
Yeah. I was wondering, what do you make of Zingis and Kolesnik? So to me, this team is on the verge of making worlds, right? And they've really been in a tough battle with both Green and Parsons, Carrera and Panama. Well, not really Carrera and Panamarenko, in recent years, but I think 2 years ago, things were a little topsy-turvy at one point. But there's certainly, Brady and Somerville, and they're neck and neck. I thought that the rhythm dance error here was one of those bigger errors of not that everyone doesn't deserve a mistake, but in ice dance when it's this political and it's this neck and neck, I thought that was a bigger error to have made it
But
this.
then it made up the ground because the Browns made the error in the free dance. So I mean,
Yes.
it is tricky. Like here you see someone like the Browns skating, and they are so in their knees and so strong in their lower legs and so fast and so low and all this sort of stuff. I think Zingis and Kolesnik just inherently interest me more out the gate. Um, the I thought the opening and the ending, this is again like a bookend moment where choreographically it was super cool. I just was getting sort of first approximation energy from it, but it's not their first approximation of this program, but it still just looked a little rough around the edges. I was ready for something a skosh more exciting from them, but I still like them very much.
By the way, the Browns, part of the reason I was watching 91 is that their coach, Inessa Bucevica, who works with them with Joel Deere, she was the technician for Natalia Dubova when when her teams had swept the podium. So Klimova, Ponomarenko, Usova Julin, and Grishik Platov, she was the real technical brain behind all of those.
Okay.
And you can see that in the technique that the Browns have.
Okay.
You know, they really, I think, have the best skating skills in the field, especially in the US. Not the best programs, but always very, strong skating skills. I'd be curious what US figure skating does with regards to Zagreb. So this is the competition. It's the same week as the Grand Prix final. It used to always have a live stream. It didn't last year. It is almost like the B-list Grand Prix final, if you will. I mean, a lot of times people who are maybe they set out the Grand Prix, they aim for Zagreb, or if they didn't make the final and they're trying to peak later, they go to Zagreb. We've seen a lot of, top teams want to go there over the years. And I think what's interesting is that all of the US teams want to be assigned this because it's the last big event for nationals, especially if you don't make the Grand Prix final. This is the international event. Yes, you can get points. There's a lot of ISU officials who go here. There's a lot of judges. And I think for the US, it really will determine who gets that third spot at Worlds, or definitely help the judges see you as a stronger contender. I think if the team doesn't get named to Zagreb, it's a problem. Now, I would say going for Worlds, you have about 4 or 5 teams that could potentially get, in third place. I think 4, 3 to 4.
Who was swimming at second? Green and Parsons?
No, Carrera and Ponomarenko are.
I see. I see. Yeah.
I think that they're solidly in,
Usually that they have sort of etched into their own category in that second slot. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Not sure if they will make the final or not, right? But that's kind of one of the teams if they were to get like the 6th spot in the final. If not, they would go to Zagreb, right? And you have to look at the teams underneath. Green and Parsons would want to go. Zingis and Kolesnik would want to go. Brady and Somerville would want to go. The Browns would want to go. You can only send 3 teams.
I think it's Bronte and Somerville, don't you? Right now?
I think so. I think they've earned it. I think they came back from that mistake last year at Worlds, and I think they've taken one of those spots. So now you start to wonder, Zingis and Kolesnik, I think, need to go if they want to turn the tide, and we'll kind of see what happens.
I just wanted their material to be more inspiring. Like, again, the opening and the ending of because I'm kind of rooting for them because I've just inherently been drawn to their style the past 2 seasons. But it failed to sort of capture me, this program and this performance here. And even like their rotational list used to be so exciting to me, and they're trying stuff, but it's just, I don't know. I feel like they're very much in process of finding who they are at the moment. So I kind of was let down by, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't an iconic program. And I think I need one in order to sort of rise above the rest.
I've really liked Zingis and Kolesnik's free dance this season. I think it has a point of view. It was not their best performance of it. I enjoyed it more at the previous Grand Prix.
Okay.
I still think they're in the mix. I think the transition from singles to dance is a tough one, and I still think that that's the biggest drawback of this team.
Okay.
I still watch them and wonder what could have been with his previous partner, right? It's almost like, you know, Sinitsyn and Katsalapov, like, yes, they medaled at the Olympics, but it still would have been better if he were with Ilinique, right? Like, you still know that that end result was more interesting and appealing.
Right.
You know, this is building, this is getting better, but I think there's still, you know, room for improvement for them to really be solidly, you know, on the team for the World Championships. So,
yeah.
But I think that the competition for the spot at the World Championships will make all of the teams better ultimately, and that's better for U.S. ice dancing.
Because in a way, something about Zingis and Kolesnik reminds me of the top Finnish team. They sort of can capture something similar-ish in their performance at times, but of course, to see them back to back, and the Finns did that wonderful tango, all this sort of stuff, it really separated where really they both are as teams.
Yeah, I really like the Finnish team.
I do.
Just inherently, her look is just.
And they told a story. You know, here's the thing. We always hear everybody's doing a story. Here's this odd background to it. And then, of course, you see the program and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. They actually told that story. It was like watching a thriller because I'd not seen this yet this season. So I was like, how does this end? Does he do her in? Does she do him in? Like, this could go any which way. What's happening here? So I was riveted. I would watch them do a play on ice. They're very good actors and communicators in addition to those great rotational lifts and spins and everything. Do
the themes bother you? I have to say, when Mark is reading what some of these programs are about, sometimes
that's what they said to him. And
that's what they said, right? But do skaters feel that they need to say it? Okay, there are two Hana Yoshidas this week. And then like, I almost want to make, okay, my idea for a video would be like all the ridiculous themes. And it's like the commentator saying it over time, like just like how ridiculous this is, right? Like, well, remember the Libertas program with like Anasina and Pezera? Like someone is like something oppressed and he represents freedom. And then like something
and there was like a Bobrova, like Soloviev one, or Bobrova and Soloviev, where they were in like a mental institution, but something was and I was like, this is, if I need Cliff's Notes to get through a 4-minute ice dance, this is, you're not telling the story you think you are. But they did. They did tell the story. And you're like, no wonder.
Another way, other ones, when Deanna and Max talk about the ocean program, it takes way too long. It takes way too long for when she okay, we're gonna just when she goes into it, like, you know, and then and you know we love her, but I think she wanted to be a French ice dancer this season, you know, like I think she was trying it on for like costume play, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's some other, the Lucas Richie time travel between space and galaxies and dimensions, and then the Hana Yoshida one before the skate. I mean, the themes are too long. They are too long.
Agreed.
I understand none of them. Okay.
And ironically, do you know what the introduction was for the Finns ice dance? Dark tango. Okay. And I was like, great, that's all I needed.
Okay.
We can observe it. We will take in the story. And their opening rotational move, I was like, what? It was incredible. They're suave, they're elegant, they're sensual, they're sharp, they're in sync. The rotational lift and the choreo lift, and she's on her, the boots. I was like, they just kept me intrigued as to what was going to happen next, either in cool, innovative moves, lifts, spins, and the story itself. As opposed to some of these others, like you're saying, reflections, where you're like, how is this 4 minutes still happening? Yeah. It was over in a blink of an eye, and I was like, I could take another round of something. I want to see the next chapter. I totally am into them.
Okay, all right. What do you make of the ocean program?
Is that Deanna's?
Yes.
Okay, here, wait. I was just thinking if I had anything else. The Corolla program was cute from the Koreans.
Yes, very cute.
Now the second Finnish team doing chorus line. I'm just going to skip right past that because that upset me.
You know, if you have nothing nice to say,
Yeah, it's just
sit by us.
like goodbye, everybody else. Well, and I love a brother and sister team from the Czech Republic. There's a
Yes.
split curve lift here with the upside down was great. I don't know, just nice to see all those people this season.
They were my second favorite sibling Czech team, and the Tashlers have overtaken. I now appreciate them. They've won me over.
Yeah, I wasn't so sure about the choreo slide, but that upside down split curve lift was cool.
Yes.
It was nice. Okay, so meanwhile, under the water, let's see here.
She's the water, and he's an explorer, and she's showing him the wonders of the ocean. And I think their throw triple Lutz was maybe that island of garbage off the Pacific that we've heard about. It wasn't great here, right? It was not. But their throw loop was much improved in both programs. It was
especially in the short, yeah.
The best throw loops that she has done by far.
What I do like about the free skate, she does that pair combo spin like exit where she jumps up and does this cool thing. There's
a lot of cool shit in the program.
There were a lot of cool moments. I know, obviously, I could tell from the music itself and the costuming, we're doing something with water. But yes. I just ask, like, that's a big ask for anyone to be an element with an explorer and be a tour guide while you're also doing side-by-side spins and throw triple twists.
Here's the thing. I believe, like in the short program, that she's doing all of the expression for two people. Okay? Max has to look interested in the water. He needs to look like he drinks water. He needs to look like he's been to an ocean. I mean, he is so focused in that program that I don't feel he's giving extra energy.
Did we have any insight about it? Because also, now I have not seen them skate this program yet this season, but I was sensing, as I was watching, quite a great deal of careful, cautious sort of approaches. Like, I didn't know if something had happened in a practice, or I didn't notice anything in the warm-up necessarily, but they seemed, or he seemed in particular, somewhat protective of his skating.
I don't know, not that I've heard of, but I had a sense, okay, I prefer to watch them in a short program versus the free, just for my own anxiety, okay?
Yeah, because they can pick the elements they want. Only one jump, only one throw, yeah.
I would really like them to go back to last year's short at the end of the season to like pull a Megan and Eric and switch out the program the way they did with the Adele program right before the Olympics. Like, to me, the slow, I don't know what it is because I've listened to the Crazy in Love Beyonce before, loved it. Something about it on the ice, and I don't think that the music has been slowed down, but for whatever reason, when you watch it on TV, it feels slow. It feels like Beyonce it feels endless. It almost feels like the rhythm of the music fights them. Also, yeah. She's giving more energy than the music at times. So she needs to bring it down like 15% and he needs to bring it up like 20%. Because she's giving so much of this music that's slower, and then and I just feel like there's like this like weird like push and pull, although the actual skating is actually better than their skating was last year, and they look more cohesive. But the mismatch is in the music and not in their overall skating. And the Germans don't have a theme really at all, right? They're just very competent meat and potato skaters. The Japanese do have a theme. Whether or not they hit it also depends on the day. This is just, so what the Japanese and what Deanna and Max are doing is much more complex artistically than the Germans. So, you have to give credit to that. It's just in process. Personally, I would like to see them go back to the other short. Someone pointed out, well, they could save it for the Olympics, but I would, if they're in a position to compete for the world title, I would go with the oxygen program. They can have, like, I think you want to be in the ocean, keep it.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
I think that's stretching them, that's giving them new transitions and things like that. But I would switch one of the programs before Worlds.
I mean, the thing is that actually Beyonce doing that weird breathy ASMR sort of intro?
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
not familiar with that version. And it's kind of that
I
I'm
don't
so,
think you saw 50 Shades of Grey.
I did not.
I didn't either, but I listened to the soundtrack. You know,
I
I
see. So
couldn't
this
go
is
see it in the theater. I had self-respect. Like I
okay.
just didn't.
I mean, it has like a creepy ASMR quality where like I kind of get a little like antsy in my body when I hear it. And you're right, there's something so sparse and open about it, and she's selling it like it's already a big climactic ending.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. Again, I hope that they have two great ideas that they're saving.
Mhm.
Is what I wonder for
Yeah.
next season. Because the water, it's like good for you for trying a thing. I don't know that it's my favorite, but if this helps them find whatever then comes next,
I
it's
think
for a purpose.
what I would say is I think she's more based on raw emotion than a story.
Yes.
Even though last year's Free Skate had a story, it was really about passion. Right? Yes, they were very
I think it had like an overall like cast of characters, but not necessarily a plot they were trying to share. It was just like being them.
Mhm.
And so same thing. She can't hit an ugly position. Like when she is in the air, it is beautiful. It is not necessarily communicative, but it is super beautiful. So
Yeah.
just own it. Be beautiful.
Yeah.
Because some of those lift positions are out of this world.
I think they're in the season where they're trying really hard to push skating forward in both programs. And the sweet spot will be dialing it back just a little.
Okay.
But that's often the story. You know, like remember when they tried like transitions that were too hard for the moment and then they had to kind of
Right.
figure it out. So, but I think the free has a lot of good stuff in it. It's
Yeah, a
just
lot of the moves are quite unique.
Mhm. And we
And
haven't seen them
it's an
do it
entertainment.
cleanly. You know,
Yeah.
we the throw loop has been much better and it was better in both programs. So obviously that is translating over. The three jump combo still scares the shit out of me every time they do it. It is mostly her on the double axle, although he's missed it before as well. So,
Did they do the double sow cows in Canada as well?
no, yeah, but the Sal, if they're going to have an issue with one of the side by sides, the triples, it's usually the Sal for whatever reason. They both popped them here.
Yeah.
Uh,
I didn't know
so,
it was planned. It looked so clean and doubled.
no, but I sort of felt when she got iffy on the double axle and had to fight for that landing, I thought, uh-oh, because the next element is the sow, and it just didn't look like they recovered in time.
It's an interesting strategy a lot of pairs do, where they seem to do both jumping passes almost back to back or very near one another. And I wondered if I would just want them further apart, just in case, unless they think like, okay, now I'm just in like jump mode.
I just think they need to get really confident with those sows. Remember, they weren't doing them 2 years ago, then they put it in. They can do them. I think I think they're just going through the uphill climb of the season of getting peaked. And what they have done a good job is that they said that they were going to start slower and build, and they really have done that from event to event to event. So I think for the final, the pressure is on to deliver, but I thought their short was better here. I thought that there were elements that had really improved. So now they have, the next kind of thing to do.
Certainly compared to previous seasons, they are right on track. And again, it's what's so goofy about this kind of season where they really have a shot at this world title. So they have to let that time period be their goal. It
Mhm.
can't be about Finlandia.
No.
It has
Whereas
to
the
be about her.
Germans, and we're at a weird point in the season because the Germans started up here, then their next event was here, and now we're kind of waiting to see what they're going to do.
Right.
So, and the Japanese have also been riding a wave. No pun intended.
And I think about even all these Challenger series where we saw everyone begin, it was like there's no real safe place for these first approximations and experimental times
Yeah.
because we all see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, even Boykova in Russia is not doing her throw quad sow until after the nationals because she wants to win. So,
Oh, good to know. Good to know.
yes, He's very stressed about it. And
Okay.
and Kosternaya is not competing for 2 years. I didn't know if you knew.
Did
Even
see that. Yeah. Okay.
something's up there. I don't think she's being fully honest with
Funny then. Yeah.
information. It was so interesting. She said that she had pneumonia and that she was going to be too sick to compete. And then they did master classes and shows, and she was immediately doing triple flip, double axel, double axel. And you just think, honey, what's happening here?
What's going on?
What's about, right? Like, and now they're taking 2 years off. Like, I don't know. Then there's of course, they have like a million articles about whether or not she's pregnant. There's no news of any indication. So just
TBD.
TBD, just a mess, like a mess that you're like, you can't win by talking about that.
And I don't know that we didn't see that coming.
Yeah, like I don't know what's happening here. They got one quote from Yelena Tchaikovskaya that they still look like single skaters, and then boom, they are still doing shows. But who knows? They could change flags. They've said that they're not, but a lot of people say that they're not until they. Remember, Deanna and Gleb told us they weren't changing flags until they did. So
they told us a lot of stuff that we didn't know until they did it. Yeah,
that's very true. That's very true.
So that's par for the course. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Annabelle also didn't say that she was changing flags until she did, right?
Until she did. Too funny.
I think everybody's hedging their bets to see what happens. There's always rumors every spring that this is the spring Russia's going to be allowed back, and there was no change in the war. Now that
maybe one is coming of some sort.
Yeah. So, I would say, maybe.
Time for the Olympics.
Well, think about it. Our Congress is now very different than it was, or it ought to be, right? So if the US is suddenly not so anti-Russia participating, and China seems like they're okay with them participating, they might be back. You don't know. It's certainly an evolving situation. So
I
don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But I understand why Kosternaya is sitting on the sides, being like, well,
you sort this out. I'll join you in a little bit.
Listen, if they have one spot, she's in no danger of getting it. So
right, exactly.
She doesn't need to work too hard. You're fine. Oh, man, did any of the other pairs speak to you? I really like Emily and Spencer's skating, but the 99 problems are really hard to get behind. And objectively, they are better skaters than Ellie and Danny as a team.
Much, I think,
But I don't trust them on the elements at all.
And here's the thing. He does that thing that's this intoxicating, huge, big performative energy, but it's that kind that scares you because it seems a little too wild. Mm-hmm. So as much as it's fun to see, I'm like, you do have a partner who is now currently like chasing after you because you must be skating faster than you normally do in this section, and errors like with the spin or, whatever. It seems like it could spin out of control at any moment. So it instead of being an exciting energy he brings, sometimes it makes me nervous.
And we need to give a shout out to their coach, Olga, who doesn't go to the competitions as much with them when it's a Grand Prix, but she was at sectionals. She had one of the greatest moments for a competitor that you would love. So apparently she had a skater, and the skater's best friend got hurt and was like screaming and writhing in pain, backstage at the competition, and didn't compete. And she took that girl who had more time then because the girl before her wasn't competing. And she was like, you need to be selfish right now. You need to be selfish. Focus on yourself. Like, she was right. She was. Yeah.
You can care about your friend in just a second.
Yes.
We're not saying ignore her. We're just saying ignore her until you're done.
Olga told me to be selfish in that moment. I would have done it. That finger went in her face. She had put glove on, and it was like, you need to be selfish. Oh my God. And remember Phil D'Ieso? He's the announcer at all of the events in Boston, and he's a very charming announcer. Like, he has very positive, happy energy on there.
Okay. Nice.
Yes. We went out with him that one time in the city, and it was
just right, like a funny afternoon, like several years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's like the voice of the skating club of Boston. Yeah, it's just funny.
He's America's PJ Kwong.
Yes. Yes.
Dreams do come true.
Yeah. Did any of the pairs? I have to say, the Italians are really sloppy for me. Like I want to like them. They have
I want to
creative.
like them too because they're trying something, at least with a bit of energy and all this sort of stuff. So I think they could be this wild element. Now, has anyone seen Matteo Guarise and his partner this season?
I want to say yes.
Because that's who I mean, I would imagine, although we've discussed, you know, the Conti situation, but like I would imagine if you're in Italy, you're assuming that's a no-brainer choice for them for the world team. I think it comes down between Matteo,
Yeah,
and his partner, and Rebecca and hers.
they
So
left a huge impression. If I'm asked on the spot and I'm like, yes, like
yeah, exactly. Well, that's sort of what I'm saying. And some of these medals are coming up just because of a lighter field in places. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens by Europeans.
yeah.
But yes, I agree with you. It's like, hey, for effort, I appreciate what you're trying to do here to shake things up a little bit, but it's got to be a little cleaner.
There's been a lot of skating happening.
And the full blown like Dracula with the fangs and stuff, I was like, this is too much.
Yeah,
this is too much. Yeah.
The Maria Pavlova,
The
the
Hungarian
Hungarian Russians, known as the Hussians. They leave you feeling cold, right? They're a real nut and bolts team.
And I couldn't figure out why. I was like, why are you so disinterested in this? And my favorite, they did Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay. And my favorite was Mark is forced to say they really want to show off their improvement in their performance ability and skating skills, so they've chosen Pirates of the Caribbean. And I was like, that's like a scripted joke of the worst thing you could do if that's what you were trying to show. I know they.
Javi had the best Pirates of the Caribbean. Remember, he had the drunk pirate step sequence.
Right. That was clever.
Yes.
Told a story.
Told a story.
I can't
like
help.
He was under the ocean. Yes.
Drinking. Yeah, this, I mean, I know they would have been an even higher score if the lift had gone up in the free skate, but yeah, I just couldn't, it just didn't speak to me.
Yeah, they don't speak to me.
The elements that you're like, it's not wrong.
But I trust her to get stuff done.
Yeah. It's a worker. It's like a, I know we talk about Shishkova and Amuov, but like I'm thinking of Eltsova and Bushkov. Like it's giving me real them.
Worker energy. Yes.
Correct. The worker bee pair.
Yes.
Yeah. Have a silver medal.
You know, Bella Caroli once, who passed away this weekend, one of his genius was in, structuring training groups that force each other to get better. I mean, kind of like a sick tactic and also effective. But he said that, you have one that's like less talented but works harder than the rest. And like, that's how you design.
Okay.
They study some sick games in this.
And again, if the end goal is only results,
very like
it was not smart.
Maya Romich of the group, right? Yes.
But for real, that's a thing.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. Oof. Oof.
Yeah. Speaking of Maya, you want to go to ladies?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
Women, sorry.
Women.
Where do we begin?
You know what? Lara from Italy, I really enjoyed the free skate. I enjoy her spins. She does a 2-foot scratch, the old crossfoot spin, if you will. Really impressive. You love a tall giraffe. I was liking a tall giraffe. I thought that she was really lovely and just something different than the other girls. And I really just found her to be a breath of fresh air in this event.
It was sort of like she wandered over from another event.
Yeah.
In kind of a nice way. If I am being totally honest, sometimes when you go and watch these big events, that might have been a name in the past, like at a Europeans or something, that I might have skipped for time management's sake.
Yes.
And here, obviously, I knew of the result before I watched, so I knew I had to watch her. And it's been a while since I sat down and I watched her, and there's some really lovely things happening. And it was interesting because that's sort of like the vulnerability in this Italian team event for the Olympics. And I know she didn't necessarily have a terrific outing at her first Grand Prix, but I'm intrigued, you know, from doing well in the short, and then she was able to carry it into the free skate. Is she now able to take this success and sort of translate it into something exciting at Europeans?
I think so.
She might, right? Isn't it so funny how once you could just turn that page, it's so easily turned.
What's the song from the musical? Like, there's something there that wasn't there before, right? Like,
It's Beauty and the Beast.
oh yes, yes, yes. Oh yes. Being
Yeah,
playing free skate for her, very Nancy Kerrigan.
that's right. I've ever done. Yeah, okay.
Oh, Jenny and I were watching this girl at sectionals, and we thought she might skate to Beauty and the Beast based on the dress, and then it was time to say goodbye, and we were really disappointed. We were just like,
And then
oh,
it was. Yeah.
well, you walked into that joke.
Yeah. Lady. Yeah, okay.
She didn't qualify. I really enjoyed Rino Matsuike in her free skate here. She has some moments in the step sequence that are worth rewatching and rewatching and rewatching.
It's amazing. I wasn't ready for it emotionally. I was like, oh yeah, I know Rino. Like Rino's a lovely skater. Okay, here we go. Here we go. And the short program where she do the flyaway,
okay.
the Moulin Rouge.
We're having a pop quiz today. Okay, let's Rino Matsuke's short program. 1 second. You know, I wish he put the music on skating scores. Yes, it's One Day I'll Fly Away, Moulin Rouge. Yes.
Okay. It was fine. But
choreographed by Yuka's mother. The free skate is Lori Nickel. Yeah.
And it's really lovely. It's really, really lovely. The edges were so beautiful. You know what surprised me though was the ending pose. Because she does that, like she's down on her knees and like then does this back thing, which seems a little bit more like razzle dazzle than the elegance and refinement of the program. That surprised me. I think if they really want to go that extra kilometer, I think for Lori, then I would love to see something a little bit more elegant and creative as that final pose. But the whole thing there was something refreshing about this skate. It was pure skating. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
To me, if we're picking our fantasy Japanese team for Worlds, Kaori,
Yeah.
Wakaba, Rino.
Okay, good meeting. See you next week.
That's who I would like to see at Worlds in Japan.
Who do you think could disrupt those three?
Hana Yoshida, maybe, because of results, but I don't care for it. It doesn't speak to me. I've always found her a touch overrated. I know people liked that one short program. To me, it's all shoulders and
elbow. Yeah, I don't quite get it as it relates to the other three. Yeah. And I know, you know, for a while we were told we had to be impressed because of the triple axel, and it's not really around at the moment. So to me, in the way we used to talk about like important skating versus sort of functional skating, Rino sort of is giving not Rino. Is it Rino?
Rino. Yeah, Matsuike.
Rino?
Yeah.
Okay. I just think that the skating like matters more.
Yeah.
It matters more to me, even though Hana Yoshida won.
Yes. It wasn't Hana won, but she didn't have the moment that Rino did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing made me, I didn't say wow.
Yeah. And I did after Rino's free skate, but unfortunately I also said wow when she fell on the flip in the short. So, you know, and she did win the long hair easily. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Not that I wish any ill against Hana Yoshida. I just respond more to Rino.
Now, what do you make of Miss Sarah Everhardt? Because technically, you know, at US Nationals, we don't judge components very harshly. Typically, everyone gets inflation, which kind of hurts the more artistic skaters. Although in the US, we don't know why Isabeau withdrew.
Right.
Lindsay's jumps have been cheated all season and last year, but really, you know, becoming, you know, called out at every competition.
And a shame because the material is better than it has ever been. I know she repeated that short program, but the long was fabulous. The step sequences, she took her time, she takes up space, she was like
The
stately.
spiral that she holds forever.
And there
Yes.
was, I don't think, one jump that wasn't under rotated.
I think
And
one got clean. I think the loop they gave her, but yeah.
I want to give like the height of Sarah's jumps to Lindsay and put him in that program.
What I'm wondering is some of these girls in the US seem questionable. Like if they want Isabeau to be at Worlds, is she going to have to sit out nationals at this point? Is she going to go to nationals? Do we trust Amber to deliver at nationals? Like Sarah Everhardt, it could be one of those situations where she's second but deserves to be first and everybody knows it. One of
But
those
this is where
embarrassing.
I differ a little bit, it seems sometimes, from US figure skating. Well, in many ways, I would hope. But one of them being, I want to reward the one on the rise,
Yes.
not the one where they might be over the apex there. Like, so when we're talking about, for instance, a Lindsay that has been around, it breaks my heart because again, I didn't know she was capable of this kind of skating, and these kinds of programs are among the best in the entire field, I think. But it would be easier in my mind to reward the up and comer.
So here's the thing. Lindsay had lines before and she had spins, but they found ways to choreograph it into the program and accentuate and develop and work with, right? And that's where I don't think that Benoit did anything for Lindsay that was individual. A lot of his choreography is very repetitive from skater to skater to skater, right? Just in terms of his style, he has a lot of
Yeah, you know
angles.
it's one of his.
You
Yeah.
know, right? I think that what they did is they have a more individual approach because she's one of the only ones they're working on, together. Sarah needs someone really to work with her every day on her posture, her extension, and her performance to become that top lady in the world that she has the competitive ability to be. I don't know if she has the artistic side to be a captivating skater, but it can certainly be improved
To
and
be
with more
refined.
music and refined, and certainly just her extension and the look. That said, I don't know if Tatiana Molina, who did the Aladdin program with the bent arms, who looks after her son, who makes fun of having to improve his skating skills, which I get is an insecurity thing because he's so brilliant at everything else. However, she really needs to improve this because
Yeah.
she is capable of going to the Olympics. She's
Yep.
capable of being the top US lady
Yep.
because she is reliable, she's competitive, and she's mentally strong. And this is someone who really needs that daily work. She needs a JoJo. She needs a Paul. She needs a Sandra. She needs someone who gets it to really work with her every day because she is so good in one area and so lacking in the other. It reminds me of Jade Carey. Every time I see Jade Carey on ice when I'm watching and I'm like, okay, we've got to work on the second one.
And again, there seems to be, as is tradition in sort of this world, utter confusion at the scores when they aren't higher. And it's interesting because her second score can go really high because of how huge she skates. She skates fast and takes up like the whole damn arena. So it's like you're already halfway there.
Yeah.
You just like do a little hand something, point a little toe, like give a little smile or widen the eyes once in a blue moon, and it will rise faster than you think it will.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost as though there's been one side of her skating that's been so focused on. She almost reminds me of a young Sarah Hughes before Robin cut her hair. And didn't she work in front of the mirror with her? Wasn't that the story?
Yeah.
But to me, she needs someone as attuned to detail as Robin was to work on the improvement. Sarah
Yeah.
Hughes wasn't my favorite skater of all time, but if you look at Sarah Hughes in 1999 and Sarah Hughes in 2002, that's a huge jump, right? In refinement.
I'm sorry because it's such a hot button issue, but even when you think about Tara versus Michelle in 98, yes, Michelle is the artist. Yes, Michelle. Yes, 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 yes. Tara wasn't not. No, she was in no way able to bring the maturity and sophistication of program, but Sandra refined the bejesus out of that program. She couldn't look at a position and be like, oh, how ugly and unfinished.
And she worked with
Can be
Susie Wing
tough.
every day. And
Mm,
she worked with Olga, that ballet teacher who also worked with Jenny.
okay.
So they had that, and that's the kind of work. And I think that that's what's really been lost with skating is that because there's so much of an emphasis put on the technical, nobody focuses on the performance. But I also think it's why people don't really watch because it's
Yeah,
not
because
transformative
the
anymore.
average person doesn't know the difference between Lindsay Thorngren's combo and Sarah's. It's just a casual viewer, but you do notice when you like a program and another one just sort of seems phoned in.
It's just interesting. To me, what I used to find about skating is that it would just draw you in, right? Like it was just magical, right? And that's what I think is lost. And someone like Sarah is so good technically, but she doesn't have that
And
magic.
that's why I respond to these Lori and Sandra's because they are of a different era.
Yeah.
And showing you it can be done in this system. It's probably a lot harder, but it can be done.
Yeah.
Um,
What'd you think of the men? So Yuma Kagiyama, Lori told us that she picked The Sound of Silence for him.
for the whispering blade.
Love, love.
We know, the sound of silence has not been silent in the figure skating community. Like
Yeah.
we so many programs to it and very memorable ones, but this was a nice version of it for him. By using that sort of acoustic guitar, classically guitar-y sort of approach, it was as gentle and soft as the skating skills.
I
And
mean,
that
he's
short
so,
program.
so brilliant. And I'm sad that June withdrew because I love his free skate so much. But Yuma, here's the thing. There's a lot of, every time he skates, people say, oh, it's a shame he can't beat Ilya. And Ilya has risen to the occasion so many times. But he's not always perfect, right?
Mm.
And I do think that Yuma could capitalize at a Grand Prix final or, on that day, that short program, if Ilya doesn't do a quad axel like in the short, that's the best short program in the world. Okay. I
Yes,
know that his jumps, Ilya's are harder, but to me, that is skating, right? Like that short program that he did here.
you must have more quality.
Yeah. It's
It's
not rewarded enough. The landing, the soft knees, the flow, the edges, the technique, the body position, the transition,
yeah.
the musicality. Now he lacks that swagger that Ilya has.
You
And
don't have to be a swaggery guy. Like what
you
he's doing.
need to project that you believe that you're the best in the world. And I
Hmm.
think Yuma is getting there, but he's always, it's almost like his skating and his overall demeanor has been deferential to Yuzu and to Shoma, right? But he's now becoming that figure and he needs to step forward and embody it, right? Like we need to know that he thinks he's the best so the judges could almost have a license to do it. And I think like it's a mix, like
Yeah.
you skate well, they give you higher scores, you skate well, they get you right, like it's a give and take. But he's developing. I mean, his improvement from last year to this year is immense, and last year to the year before, right? So he's improving.
And smart, well managed. So also sometimes what I'm seeing is like, I think I see a guy who's not here to have this be the epic event of his skating career. He's here to like achieve a specific thing that will ultimately serve his bigger goal later.
Mhm.
Like there seems to be such a strategy to this. So it's why I don't see him walk in and be like, all right, here I am. Because I think he's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm here to see kind of how this goes this time. We're going to try this time. But
Ilya has that ability to walk in and say, "Here I am."
yes,
Now, not all the time, but at the big moments when he's had to nationals in 2022, his junior worlds, he got it done. The world championships last year, he's really delivered in that key time. So it'll be interesting to see. But Yuma has also delivered at big moments. Remember, he did medal at the Worlds in 2021. He did medal at the Olympics, right? Like he has shown up when he has needed to. So And last year he was so brilliant at Worlds, except for that one error, of the free. He had one of the greatest programs we had seen. So I think, and he's a better skater today than he was in March. So visibly, notably, right? So I think he's really improving, and curious to see where this goes.
And again, when he does something like that step sequence entrance where he does like a backward turning jump into it, I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Nobody is doing stuff like this. Kevin is doing really interesting, cool moves, but Kevin doesn't have Yuma's abilities. So it's sort of this crazy virtuosic moment, the beginning to that step sequence, and the flying combo spin exit was so cool, and the ending of the free skate is so cool. I think sky's the limit for this program.
What do you
I
make
know
of
obviously
Kevin's
double
material? So on one hand, there's a campiness and a cheese to Kevin's short program. Somehow he pulls it off.
Oh, the short program I think is my favorite of the two.
Yeah, like, but I can understand why I wouldn't like it, right? Like there's the pointing, but he makes it come alive in a way that it grows on me every time.
It looks like something he would organically do at a club, dancing. When I think it gets so cringy, especially in some of the ice dance rhythm dance sections, are when someone's been assigned something and that person doesn't even believe it. We've had to do something, whether it's like you in a program or me on stage where I'm like, you are asking me to do this and I don't believe in whatever this is. And then suddenly you see a poor ice dancer being like,
yeah.
And you're like, they hate this. But it's so organic to him. And again, like we were saying about Lewis, you just want to have fun.
Yeah.
That person just knows how to move, and I'm here for it. But yeah, dance. I want to watch. This is great.
Yeah. He did say that he knew he was going to have one element in the free. So when he made that mistake, he felt good. You know what? It's a ride with Kevin.
Yeah, I would imagine.
He gave interesting quotes about that he's mean to his boyfriend before he skates, and he's a quote machine. This is
but I know performers like that.
Yes.
Will pick fights to rev up. I mean, that was even the basis of this idea of like Tanya and her mom, right?
If you watch Peggy and her mom, remember her mom ripped up the letters so that she would cry and get out her emotional angst. If you watch Simone at the Olympics with her husband, like he was talking to her and she was not having it at one point.
Yeah.
But the pressure is so immense at that point.
Because he needed someone to point in his face and say, you need to be selfish.
You need to be selfish.
Selfish right now. You need to not be worrying about relationship stuff. Go in the other room and be selfish. Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, Kevin 2 months ago did not look like Kevin now. So
this was a very convincing Grand Prix so far for him.
Am I convinced that he'll be consistent in the future?
Never.
No, never. Right. Yeah. But we are going to be on this ride. So, okay. His back was up against the wall before Skate America, and then he skated so great and it has kept this alive.
In a great kind of way. Because, he opened the free skate with that stunner of a triple axel. And then when the quad toe went down, you thought, don't deflate on us. And then bounced right back in. And again, if the strategy had to be he knew he would make a mistake or whatever that's all about, so be it. Because it seems to be healthy and working for him at the moment.
His triple axel in the free was mind-blowingly good at one point.
Yeah,
so,
gorgeous.
What did you make of Daniel Grassl and this Billy Elliott?
Well, like we were talking about Piper's mouth, like sometimes once you clue into something, you can't unsee it. And it's still the Pez head sort of quad air technique. And he has the floofy hair, as I'm familiar with. And so it's like the combo of those two things. I can't look at anything else, but
And the floofy limbs, right? Is he hypermobile in his joints? Like
could be.
He must be, right?
Okay.
I mean, some of what he's able to do, that spin that he does at the end, incredible. Don't know if it's aesthetic,
Yeah.
but it is something. I mean,
And I just wrote the ending is weird and I don't care for the edit.
no, I think when the woman is like teaching the dance class,
It's another story that you didn't give us enough of the story to then call back to it.
I always think it's weird. I always think that so I had friends that wanted me to skate to like choral music, but I said, but I'm a solo performer, and one person, an adult who's not super powerful, skating to a large group, I don't think matches, right? And I think a man can skate to a woman. I don't. I think it can be done. I think that that particular thing is almost like a theatrical interlude that doesn't really make sense, and it like takes me out of the program. I just find it.
Well, yeah, again, because if it started and it was more clear this is a young ballet student we are watching, but it wasn't clear. I got it. He was in the t-shirt, but I thought, Daniel can do many quads, but I don't think any of us consider him a balletic kind of skater. So to now have us inviting the comparison and doing this sort of program, I'm like, it's just sort of showing me where ways in which you are not a balletic skater.
Right. And talk about a story, especially if you see the musical, right? It really emphasizes him as a kid going through the struggles, falling, getting better. And then, of course, the end, it's a magnificent performance of Swan Lake. Daniel doesn't have the magnificent performance of Swan Lake in him, so you don't get the payoff at the end of the program. So then it doesn't really work for me.
For
I get the
instance, Diana Davis doing it.
Hmm.
Why are you showing us what we now are envisioning someone else skating better? Go back in time and give this program to Kolyada or someone
Hmm.
who emerges.
By the way, Kolyada on Instagram lately is
Oh, I have to recheck that
a
out.
masterclass in skating.
Nice. He always was, in my opinion.
I mean, the combination of transitions and jumps and
It's so
quality of
good.
skating. Oh my God.
Yeah. That's who should do this kind of program.
I was interviewed on the Clean Tail, and one of the hosts loved Kolyada, and the guy is into winning, right? Who's the editor of the website, and he didn't understand Kolyada because he's like, well, he doesn't win, and I was like, who cares? That
Again, if you're only looking at results, to me, you don't even like the sport
yeah,
because it's
because
not.
part of the sport is the art, right? There's
Yes, yes. And for instance, and some of our greatest figures never did win, from
right.
Janet Lynn to Daisuke's silver medals, or like all this sort of stuff.
Oh yes, we're addicted to the heartbreak as much as we're addicted to the victorious moments, right? Yes.
Yeah, if it was too obvious a happy ending, we couldn't suffer with them also. Glutton for punishment every time I pick a favorite. Yeah, it's just how it goes.
What do you make of Kazuki's material? What forever one of our fan favorites.
Forever one of our fan favorites. I think the short is a much more successful vehicle.
I agree.
I think the whole free skate, I get that she wants him to try something else, but it just sort of mutes him and his special qualities a little bit. Like some of the falls were a little scary, like the triple axel one where he almost hit the head and things like that. But I find it doesn't let him be him,
Okay.
or at least the him he has shown us in the past in programs that I have responded to the most. Like I know you love the Lilah program, I did too. We're all waiting for that big release at the end, and although he tries to give us a semblance of one, it's just not the same.
I want him to go to Yuma's dad and Carolina to have that same attention of detail to get him to get the extra stretch for his competitive success, for his show success, because he's a skater worth watching, whether he's competing or in shows or professional or whatever. And I think it could elevate him even more to put that finishing touch on his skating. And I don't think that he has reached his complete potential yet.
He's got an uphill battle
Yes,
for worlds, like
every year.
because if you had to take a guess based on just whom we've seen so far, like who would you imagine is in the running? But Yuma, obviously.
Yuma, Cal.
Yeah.
I mean, Sota, Shun, right? I mean, this is a tough.
Yeah. And again, Kazuki has the potential to do more because he's the most memorable of all those other guys. But he's got to put it together. And even though I don't think the vehicle is totally right, I think it could be right enough if he was clean.
He's a streaky skater, right? Remember the Olympic season? He was doing so well. Like that was such a great year. I hope he pulls it together. I think he needs to take it up a notch, and he doesn't have a lot of time before nationals, but he's capable.
Yeah, if skated clean, like I don't know how you would put Soto above Kazuki.
No, yeah, I agree with you. It's just I worry for him that I think at any nationals, right? Every judge who's sitting on the panel has seen the whole season, right? By and large, they've paid attention. There's a subliminal bias that we all have unconscious, right? About who you expect to be in that spot. I think it's tougher for him. To me, he's always like on the bubble of making it, not making it, right? Like it's always on the edge.
He's worthy of it, but will it work out tonight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like walkabout, right?
Yeah.
Like
except backed it up twice.
I know, but he has to earn it every time.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me nervous is there's no wiggle room for him, but he's also capable of doing it. So
yeah,
I would like to see him because I find him so much more engaging than Sota and Shun.
Yes, it would be one I was most looking forward to seeing if I was at an event.
If I were casting the World Professional Championships, right? I would want him there. I'd want Koyoda there. I would want Jason Brown there, right? Like you would want Kevin there, right? Like
there. Yeah.
Adam, right? Like you would want these people there. So,
yeah. Agreed. It's interesting because we're already sort of seeing how these finals are going to shape up.
Well, what was your moment of the week?
I think I was sad about June. Did we find anything more about why he withdrew?
Injured, but yeah.
But just sort of vague that way. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Yuma's short was a real highlight. That was a real highlight for me. I would say Rino's free skate, real highlight. But I'm just going to go with, in general, it was kind of fun for me to see this group of ice dancers all together. Sometimes I sit down to watch like the complete broadcast and I'm like, but you know, you're going to skip around. And I just kept watching because everyone was so different that I was like, huh, what are you going to do? And it totally held my interest and went by like that, the free dance.
Yeah. And I would say Ting at sectionals was so good. Worth
I'm immediately going to go watch that now.
Yeah. All right. Hold an edge and look sexy, everyone. Bye now.